How are you, my dear students? We will continue our lesson on the introduction to environmental science. Again, our PowerPoint presentation was taken from www.auromscience.com, and today we are going to talk about the different era or periods of the development of what we call environmental science and awareness on environmental protections and conservations. So we have the progressive era. During the progressive era, the Antiquities Act was passed along the federal government to protect cultural and natural resources. So in the U.S., they designated what we call national lands as the national parks, national forests, and national wildlife refuges. For the national parks, these are to be kept unaltered from their original state, meaning no fishing, logging, hunting, or livestock grazing. For the national forest, we have the following activities can be done, such as commercial logging and recreational hunting and fishing, but with a secured permit to prevent overexploitation. And also for the national wildlife refuges, allow hunting and fishing with a permit, but no commercial activities. So this was based on the U.S. for 92% of the public land in the 12 western states. And the same year, when this act was passed, so San Francisco experienced a massive earthquake and fire. As the city was rebuilt, a new water supply was needed. That's why they need to build dams and reservoir. And the source of water is from the area of Yosemite National Park along the what we call Hitchie and Lake Eleanor valleys in Yosemite. That is the area where that part or that area was declared as national park. So there is what we call a conflict between the establishment of these dams and the location where it will be built, because that area is a protected area. So as a national park, a law would have to be passed granting the exemption. Now in the Philippines, there is lately lang po, the Philippine government has also suspended a work on a bridge that would connect the island of Coron and Culion in Coral Reach region of Palawan. Have you heard of that issue? The suspension of the construction of the bridge that would connect the islands of Coron and Culion. So activists or indigenous groups and marine experts say the project would threaten the rich coral biodiversity in the area, as well as the historical shipwrecks that have made the area a prime dive site. So indigenous people there, the Tagbanwa community, they successfully fought against that project, which will cause destruction of the coral reef and the rich biodiversity, and saying that they were not consulted about the bridge project. So this project, which supposedly will begin sometime in November 2020, but despite of the lack of consultation from this indigenous Tagbanwa community, then that was ordered suspended. And that was one of the example of the local issue, especially in terms of conflict between the construction of some kind of of a construction or a development in a certain area that will cause the destruction also of the environment or the biodiversity. Should government allow this, or should the government uh, protect the the nature from destruction? So it becomes a source or a subject of debate, just like what happened to the previous example on the Hitchi building of the dams and reservoir from that Yosemite National Park. The environmental ethics, or the debate on environmental ethics, on what moral relationships humans should have with the environment. So there's always a conflicting uh, issue on the development and preservation of our natural environment. And here comes what we call the philosophy, the two types of philosophy, the anthropocentrism and the ecocentrism. So anthro meaning human, and eco meaning our ecology or our ecosystem. So this philosophy of anthropocentrism means a human-centered philosophy. This philosophy was the prevailing philosophy of the ancient people, or the time when the importance of conserving our environment or protection of our environment was not realized. So this is a human-centered philosophy. Human interest and well-being comes first. Advocated to build the dam because they are saying that, hey, this dam is very important for the farming. They need water for farming. And for the ecocentrism, this is the nature-centered philosophy, wherein there is a what we call the preservation of ecosystem comes first. So advocated to leave the valley untouched. So these two philosophy, I think, okay, the dam was built in 1914 and is still in use today. It is said here, where conflicting interests must be reconciled, the question shall always be answered from the standpoint of the greatest good, the greatest number in the long run. So when there is a conflicting interest, it should always, the greatest good of the greatest number should be considered. So it should be balanced for a what is more important is the greatest good or the common good, not only the good of the individual or a company, for example.